Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is Grand Arena second match, second week, season 47. And round 1 was a very disappointing loss, because we have climbed up so high into Kyber 2 with my 5GL roster. Now we're looking at all 8GLs. And this is a week we're very likely going to go 0-3. But this last match is, I just wish I could get this one back, because that was my best chance at winning, and I should have won. It was very winnable, and I just misplayed, but also misstrategized how I should have approached that match. Up against Jedi John here. The reason why this was winnable is because he had weaker Datacrons, low on Omicrons, no Aphra, no Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. There was a number of things that set this up to be more favorable for me, and what I really should have done is just ignored his Leia. As soon as I saw Leia on that back wall, I should have just focused on clearing the top wall, but I used up counters I needed on the back wall that I could have used up against Malgus and Lord Vader and actually got through them. You can look at that video for a more in-depth breakdown, but I would have been able to win this 3 territories to 2. It wouldn't have mattered how messy it would have been. That's how I should have approached it, and I didn't. Because with his roster, with no Malicos, with weak Datacrons, he was not clearing my Leia, and I should have considered that a little earlier into the match than when it occurred to me. Now, today's match is up against Beam Me Up. This is going to be one of those matches where I've done all my recording after the fact. I already know how this one is going to go. With Beam Me Up here, 22 Omicrons. He's the second most Omicrons in the third most Omicrons in the bracket. I'm the top most. He's HGL player, 185 relics, 230 depth, all respectable and fine. Relic distribution is in his favor. He does have 26 tier 8 relics. That's going to make him tougher, but nothing extra with the tier 9, and he does have a number of tier 3 relics. So somewhat favorable, where we don't have to worry about too many of his relics. There's not that much of an advantage there. Mods are very strong, and then when we look at the specific counts, the counts are also where he has some pretty significant advantages over me. But weaker in Datacrons. This is where we might be able to perform better. Also, with his strategy from his Grand Arena history, everything is saved for offense. His defense will probably be weak, and that is what did turn out to be, but we will get to that. Now, with the rest of this, 8 and 7 relics on his GLs, so nothing too scary with a bunch of relic 9s or anything. And then his characters, Malgus here, weaker at relic 5, but 3 on me. Mods are good. Iden here, we're looking at Starkiller, is 1 on me, but relic 3 is weaker. Relic 3 on Wampa, Traya, and Savage. He does have Aphra, he does have Third Sister, and he does have Malicos. So this guy does have a lot of weapons that are going to serve him well. And then characters, Maul here. All these other things are good. Like, he has everything. This is a very strong roster, and he does have Leviathan and Profundity. Looking at the modding quality of my opponent, Beam Me Up here is very well modded. He's got a strong count. His Third Sister is exactly 300 speed, and she is right here. So he's got 39 characters modded at 300 speed or higher. That's not crazy. We've seen crazier. It is better than me, and it is still very good. And you can see there's a few characters falling below that threshold, but he has all of their key characters modded very well up high. Now, looking at the defense of this guy, he did attack first. He attacked quite early. The reason we're recording this after the fact is I had meetings Saturday morning. I was too busy to record live and to play it earlier. So I had to squeeze this in after meeting with a client in the morning, and just did the best that we could with the time that we had. This match does go well. But what we see here is his banner total is at 2076. He one-shot everything, and the likelihood that I was going to match him on banners is minuscule. So I'm just not even going to... I'm not going to throw it away or anything, but I'm not going to really try for banners. That's not my concern. I just found the likelihood of me winning this was low, and this is a good opportunity to do some testing. So you can see, like, it's weaker defense here. No GLs in that territory. There is a Malgus. Lower territory, we know there's a Lord Vader, but Lord Vader is his only GL on defense, and it is Lord Vader with Third Sister. That meant he had a 7 GL offense, which is why that banner total I just don't feel like I'm going to even touch. I might be able to do 2050 if I one-shot everything, but 2076 is very unlikely. So with Lord Vader, I knew that I probably shouldn't do this, but we're going to do it anyway because I like doing it. We're going to go Aphra here up against Lord Vader. I've restarted the record, so if there's an unfinished thought, that's why I probably just couldn't find a clean cut point for the video. I just didn't like my banter as I was going through it, and it was early enough in the record that it was just easier to restart, make it a little cleaner. Now here, this was a match where I felt like I was not going to win regardless, so I was happy to use Aphra versus Lord Vader here, even though it is very risky when Third Sister is present. I haven't had a lot of opportunities to do Aphra versus these Vader Third Sister comps. I have in 5v5, but not in 3v3. And in 5v5, it is enough to mess up the counter. But what I felt like was I still wanted to give it a shot because I wanted to have that knowledge base in 3v3. And this being a match that I was unlikely to win even had I cleared this in a first attempt, I wanted to try it anyway because I wanted that data point to know how does this look when Third Sister is present with maybe without the additional 2 characters that are present during 5v5, was I going to do enough damage where it still would have been worth using Aphra. Now, I do feel like maybe if I was at higher relics on all these characters, maybe it still would have worked. But at the relic levels these characters are at, it's just not going to happen. And we can't revive those guys, so we didn't get our chance. But now it's not going to be something you're going to see me doing. If Third Sister is on the squad, I'm probably not going to be using that until we have higher level relics on those characters, which might be a while. Now we're going to use SWGOH here. This is a fairly strong counter to CLS, as long as you have high enough relics on your SWGOH. With lower level relics on your SWGOH, like below 5, I don't think it's worth testing. Like a Relic 3 SWGOH is going to really struggle up against it unless you have the right supporting datacrons. It's going to focus on CLS so we get enough turn meter gain to take out SWGOH. Plus with the datacron of the stacking offense, we're going to be pretty strong here. And yeah, this one's fine. And I have changed my datacron view, which I forgot about. I should have made a note of who suggested it from the comments on the last video. Like, I do check out my comments, guys. That was a good reminder that I was forgetting that I could look at this stuff in a different view and make it a lot easier to find datacrons that are going to help out the attacks here. And it would have helped me out last match where I failed up against Iden. If I had stacking offense last round, I would have beat that Iden with my SWGOH. Now, Malgus here, we're going to do a Cal Kestis counter. This is what I wanted to do last round, but we painted ourselves into a corner where I decided to use my Cal Kestis up against Lord Vader rather than use the Cal Kestis up against Malgus, where that's what I was saving him for. But this is very strong. The only caveats that I have about this is in 5v5, you can use him with weaker Jedi as long as they are relict, which I don't have enough Jedi at relics to field like 3 strong teams of Jedi characters. I can field 2 strong teams easily and get him closer to 3 strong teams. But what I found in 5v5 using Gear 12 Jedi, they don't last long enough to give Cal Kestis the support he needs to get Impetuous Assault off. As long as they're at relics, though, you can use some weak Jedi in this version. But in 3v3, none of that matters, and it works great. Now, this match in general, I probably should have said this up top. We're going to do some fun testing here. That's the big goal of a match like this, where I know that I can't win, so I want to learn as much as possible. Though that doesn't mean I'm being dumb and reckless. I'm going to take this pretty seriously, and we're going to play this pretty clean, and I'm going to just... I'm looking for opportunities to learn things while also making sure we beat all these teams in one, or all remaining teams in one. Now, Night Sister is here up against Finn, Zorii. Merrin has made this super effective, and also Merrin has made Night Sister is very viable in 3v3, because what Merrin does to a team like this is she shuts down the turn meter gain from a character like Zorii or all those turn meter teams, because when any Night Sister goes off, Merrin gets a turn. And that interrupts all of that and makes her very effective, very dangerous on those kinds of comps. We're going to do that squad later. I think I was looking for like Cere Malicos and realized I put those characters on defense. So we're going to end up using a different counter. And we're going to do some fun testing up against that squad in particular. Now as we go at the rest of this, this is a strong counter. One of the reasons you don't usually see me do a SWGOH solo is I usually have SWGOH paired with this squad, because with all these characters at gear 12, some of the things that I want to do with Traya aren't very viable, and SWGOH makes it viable as a Scion replacement. Like if I was doing Third Sister, I would definitely have SWGOH instead of Scion, because I need someone to tank and stay alive to protect the Gear 12 Traya and the Gear 12 Nihilus. This is not a team that is going to function like that, though. I'm going to take out Crew, because he's a little bit more annoying in terms of his recovery and tanking and everything. Cere Juno, we're just going to be able to break down with specials and normal attacks. The win condition was eliminated as soon as Malicos was gone. Now Qui-Gon here, we're using Inquisitors. I do like to split up my Inquisitors in a way to get two strong teams out of them. Even though it makes Third Sister technically a little less threatening, it does make it so Grand Inquisitor is very strong up against Qui-Gon. And I approach it this way because I don't have Relic Bad Batch. Now, I might approach it differently with Relic Bad Batch, but at my Bad Batch, they're more likely to just get wiped out by Anakin. We'll see if this counter sticks around with Kelleran. That is something I will be testing at some point, but Kelleran might mess this up enough where we'll just have to find different usages, or we just stop splitting up the Grand Inquisitor like this. And you can see like little matches like that where that, even though that's a strong counter, we're dropping two banners. And all these matches here, all these battles here, we're losing a banner or two. Now going up against Dash Hondo. You got to respect Hondo. He can be threatening. We're going to bring in the Jedi so we can focus in and mark the characters I want to mark. I'm just trying to find the right cron. I want the offense stacking, but I know this is going to win, so I don't want to use too good of an offensive stacking one. That's why you saw me go for one of the weaker Datacrons in my collection. So we're focusing on Dash first because he is annoying and the biggest threat here. So he's been marked. We're taking him out. And now he's gone. We swapped with Jolie because he had the most turn meter. Feeding turn meter into Yoda. And I marked Hondo because I knew we could take out Dash with that free attack from Yoda. Now we're focusing fully on the Hondo. You do not want to attack L3 because Hondo's kit allows him to get supercharged if he's the last character standing. So you can't let him be the last character standing, which is why we have Jedi Knight Revan, so we can get around any taunts, prevent that outmaneuver ability, like the Falcon's ability where you can't target him. And when we do have to attack L3, like in that situation, I'm using basics because I do not want to accidentally take out L3. So we get another mark. This is going to take a little bit of time, but this is why I really like Hondo. He's just a tough character, and even though we're using a strong counter up against him, it's taken time. And now he's down. We can hit auto, and we can be good. There's little things that I could have done. Like I could have opted to played it a little slower to get some banners back, try to get a little protection back. But we're not doing things like that. Okay, let me shift over to Lord Vader here. Just going to clean this up with Ahsoka. This is what I... Had I done this... I could have done this on the first attempt, but I don't believe that I could have won this match in any scenario because of the banner total that he had. He had a very high banner total at 2076. We'll talk a little bit more at the end. But this is the only battle that I dropped. And that 30 extra banners is still not going to be enough. Because of the strategy that he played going full offense, he must have got a good amount of solos in up against my defense, and that would have given him enough of an advantage on banners, which is why that's a very legitimate and viable strategy, especially up against opponents who are not as strong or as deep with certain squads. When it becomes harder to field a strong offense and a strong defense, that can be very good. But if you're going up against a strong enough opponent who's able to field both a strong offense and defense, that can be tough, which is why I think he dropped the first round, where his opponent could have set down defenses that were going to strip banners, and he leaves behind a weak enough defense where his opponents can put up some high banner totals on him. It makes you vulnerable to the very same strategy, because the defense left behind, that my opponent's left behind here, is just way too weak. And we put the anti-revive Kron on Third Sister. I should have mentioned that a little bit earlier in this match, but we take out Third Sister early and no problem, because the hatred mechanic wasn't going to work with that Kron being used. Now, you can see the back wall super weak here. We got a fifth brother, Iden, Gas, Grand Inquisitor. Grand Inquisitor is a good character. We're not going to mess around here. Just take a Padme team in, take it out. But we're getting pretty close to the point where I'm going to do a bunch of testing. I want to start figuring out how a lot of these new characters work. This takes a minute. We just got to get courage into a position where we can start doing massive damage. It's happening up against Ninth Sister right now. And you can see, like, just that 6 stack of Purge on. Wrecker turns into some Courage. We got 25 stacks. Probably maybe I should have taken out Grand Inquisitor there, but I don't think I realized Taunt was off. Not a big deal either way. And Seventh Sister will go down in a moment. Yeah, so we're making good time. We're playing very efficiently. This Iden team has Scout Trooper, so I think for a moment I was like, oh, okay, we're going to bring in Wampa. But then I realized Scout Trooper's there, and Scout Trooper's going to shut down Wampa. And I'm glad I realized it in time and didn't make that mistake. So we back out. Problem is, well, we'll talk about it when we eventually get to that squad. Now looking at the rest of this, trying to break down how we want to approach each of these, we're going to take a look at Zorii. I want to try and pick up banners where I can. Zorii, this is one of those places where we can pick up banners, because this is very vulnerable to a Malak solo. At least these Zorii versions paired with Separatist characters, which I don't think is a great Zorii squad to put down. Malak, we're trying to find an okay Kron, not a great one. We're going to go, I believe, with the offense stats on basic. So we're going to get these buffs on the basic ability, because I know I'm going to be using the basic ability a good amount in this battle. So So we're trying to land the shock onto IG-100. We're just letting this play out. Focusing on IG-100 because we know we're just going to be behind taunt most of the time. Can't go after Grievous because he's going to force marked elsewhere. And Zorii can be very annoying when the VIP is around, so we're just focusing on IG-100. Now, sacrifice has happened, spare parts has happened. I'm trying to decide how I want to play this, but fear's on Grievous, so we drain life from IG-100. Now we're just focused on Zorii, because we gotta be. Drain and Zorii's down, and then here. I could have just hit auto. I guess I didn't. But very safe and strong counter. Now here we start getting into testing, and we're gonna use Qui-Gon Ami with Kelleran. Now the big thing to pay attention to here is there's no Omicron on CREX, which that does make this a little bit less dangerous, and it does raises questions about what we can learn from this. I still think it would have won regardless. And if you watch my kit reveal video, this is why I said I didn't care about the 3-star Gear 11 and how that's going to lower the offensive capabilities of Kelleran. I still felt like he was going to be very viable at 3 stars Gear 11 because of how powerful his unique capabilities are. Because we still get the savior mechanic onto Qui-Gon, where if they take out Qui-Gon, he's going to come back for a second time. He's not as easy to take out. Plus, we're going to have a bunch of recovery. So, and even without the Omicron, I still think this CREX squad is very dangerous because of what you just saw there. It takes so long to take out 5s when paired with CREX that it makes 501st Rex get to aerial advantage pretty safely, and then they were forced into Tarkin Ki-Adi-Mundi, but they can't take out Ki-Adi-Mundi with Qui-Gon present, so that makes it fairly safe that I can attack. Plus, look at all the recovery that we're getting whenever we use the first special from Kelleran. Or just pay attention to the footage, or previous footage, because we don't have too many opportunities to use those abilities now that CREX is almost down. You can see we're losing protection, but our health is pretty good. Foresight's always up. It's fairly safe, very powerful, and I think it's going to make Qui-Gon a very effective offensive weapon until you have relics on Kelleran, at which point I think it'll return to being very strong on defense as well. Now we're going to this this Chieftain warrior version of the Tusken Raiders. And I think maybe last week, we were able to show the Aurora version. And now we're going to get to show the Chieftain version of how Vader and this comp works up against it. This is my preferred way of taking on these Tuskens. And we're going to see one thing not go great, which is the debuffs. You can see that I have not landed any dots, which is actually pretty important to how I like to play this. Because what we want are the AoE abilities to start taking out the Tusken characters. But we can't really get the AoEs going without debuffs sticking around. So I think I should have used the Datacron. That would have allowed me to increase potency. Because what is critical here about debuffs is I cannot get stacks of Loyal Hand onto Darth Talon without debuffs on the characters. Because you only get stacks of Loyal Hand when she uses the second special on a character who has debuffs. But because I'm very quickly taking out the summons and the Raider characters, I'm not able to time it at a point where I'm getting that Loyal Hand. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm spreading my attacks around, trying to set myself up where a debuff can be on a character long enough. Because for whatever reason, I just can't get dots to land. And it's pretty surprising to me. See? And then as soon as you take out a raider, they cleanse. And right here, we finally get the opportunity, but we also at a point where things were timed right where we could take out the characters. Still worked very effectively. Last time we won from the bugged Omicron. This time we won clean. This Maul is a nonsense team. We're not going to take it. Yeah, it's the last team I take out. Gas. This is one of the things about the CREX is it makes a significantly weaker gas. We're just going to Starkiller this. You don't usually see me do it because Starkiller I pretty much just dedicate towards Ray Swallow. Well, we'll make quick work and move on. And then we're going to get to the other testing where we're going to test out Dark Trooper Moff Gideon. We're going to test out the new Mandalorian characters with Paz and Grogu. And I do think it's pretty interesting some of the results we got. Like, even though this is one of those matches where a win was very remote, I feel like we get a lot out of this match. Definitely learned some very interesting things. Now, Scout Trooper, I looked into it enough where I was just like, let's just Sith Eternal Emperor this. What you usually see from me in a lot of these matches is I try to not use the Galactic Legend. I like to handcuff myself that way where I'm trying to see how much I can beat without resorting to a GL. Forces you to know counters better, forces you to know kits better, know the characters better, and it's just a muscle that I think is valuable in building up. But here with Iden, all the other counters were already used up, and I was looking at like gas. Even gas is when Scout Trooper is present, it is not reliable enough. So I decided to not even risk it because I wanted to play this match pretty clean. So we don't mess around, and we're still going to drop banners here because these are fairly weak fairly weak Sith characters we have paired with C here, which is why I'm very much looking forward to Darth Bane being added and getting that nice little C lifter. Oh, it's going to be 4 months before we have him. Before he's unlocked. Now here we do some testing. We get Armor, Grogu, Paz. Probably would have tested this out with Bo-Katan had she been present, but she's on defense. So here we land the Armor and we get going. Now with the lead from Armor, this is where that protection up is. You don't get the tenacity like you do with Bast LaShawn. So it's not as nice of a lead, but it's very similar to the Bast LaShawn lead in terms of all that bonus protection that you start the battle with. Now we have a 4-star Paz Vizsla and a 3-star Grogu. They are both at Gear 11, and Armor is at Relic 5 from Crate Raid. And there's the Beskar onto Paz Vizsla. And we will get Beskar onto Grogu shortly. But even though this isn't the most dangerous team, it's not a junk like that Maul team. So this is very interesting. It's gotten me enough interested where I'm wondering what else I can do with it. Now, one of the things I'm not doing is really taking advantage of that second special. Now that I have 20 stacks of Overheat. That is something that I should have been taking more advantage of, but it's just... a little bit of unfamiliarity with how to best optimize using the kit, which is why I like to test things and just get a little bit more familiar with it. Also right there, I should not have self-selected Grogu, because he also heals the weakest character by default. So you'd want to not select the weakest character. That was a misclick, which is something I realized the moment I did it. You saw that fifth brother went down pretty quickly once I used the second special, and I should be using it a lot more than I am throughout this battle. That assist call, I don't need it so much in this scenario because of how quickly we're getting the 3 stacks of Beskar, but I think there are opportunities to time some of those abilities out to make sure that armor is getting Beskar out on everyone quickly. Okay, now this team here, we're going to use Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, or I'm going to be calling him Zerg. It's a credit to Tracked over on the Discord who brought that to my attention. I think I talked about it in the last video. We're not going to talk about it more beyond this, but that Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, all the other names are too much of a mouthful. I like the name Zerg, and I like how derisive it is towards the dumb character, so I'm doing it. Now here, we only have one Zeta onto Zerg, and that is the unique Zeta. The other 2 Zetas require Zerg to be in the leadership, and I think in 3v3 we're going to want it. In 5v5, I left them off because in 5v5 with Maul, I'm not going to want it, or if I use him in that way, I may not want it. Although what we have seen in the testing so far is he's been pretty effective even as a leader. So it is very possible that he may just become a 5v5 leader in Grand Arena. He definitely is going to be in Territory Wars, but I think we're still trying to figure out our optimal usage of the character in any context. We haven't seen him in 5v5 yet. But it is a possibility that he won't be paired with Maul in 5v5. Okay. Yeah, this is what it is. Yeah. And you know what? If he's not with Maul in 5v5, that means we're going to be shifting to... We might be able to split up things somewhat similar to what we did. Like we would do Maul with Imperial Super Commando, Gar Saxon, Canderous easily. Then you could do what I was doing for a little bit, which is you leave Jango with Maul, and that means you put Asajj onto a trench squad, which does kind of work. And even though Asajj is nice with Night Sisters, you don't actually lose that much in 5v5 with a different Night Sister in replacement of Asajj, because what Merrin does is she shifts the mechanics of a Night Sister squad away from the damage that Ventress does into a plague mechanic, because the characters die off a lot slower with Merrin around because she adds so much protection recovery. So it's a lot harder to get that revive train going where it makes Asajj dangerous. But she's still valuable because she has multiple specials with low cooldowns, which makes it a lot easier to stack a lot of those stats. And also to get Plague out onto the field, so there's still plenty of usage. I just think there's a little bit of room where we could be considering some different usage. Fleet's going to go easy. So Marauder, I decided I respected the most, which is why we're using Leviathan. Didn't want to mess around with it. And I think that was the right call. Because they do make a decent amount of progress here. Yeah, so yeah, there's nothing to really highlight here. We're going to get through this fine. The reason I did that AoE ability with the dagger was because you get a stat boost by using it. There's just that constant either offense or crit damage stacking that's happening. So even though it was going to counter, I went with it anyway. Now up against the Malevolence, we're going to use the Negotiator. Because I didn't want to risk Empire ships up against it. More because of lack of confidence with it. Like the Empire fleets are made much better with Chimera and Scythe, but I haven't done those counters too often up against the Malevolence, partly because I usually need to use them elsewhere, but also because I tend to counter those squads with the Malevolence, or I had before I put Malevolence on defense, which meant I didn't want to really risk it when I knew the Negotiator was going to crush it. And the other thing going on with his Chimera squad, and I guess we'll highlight it in a moment, but his Chimera squad is pretty weak, so I was very confident that my Empire characters were going to beat his Empire characters. Yeah, so we're doing what we got to do. Taking this stuff out pretty quick. I'm trying to be careful with taking out droids, because I don't want to feed a bunch of turn meter to the capital ship. But it goes fine. So here's what I mean. You can see with his Chimera, he's got the Scythe. Scythe needs to be with the Executrix. There's things within the mechanics that specifically say Executrix. So by putting it with the Chimera, he's not creating a strong enough fleet, because one of the things that happens here is you can see there's no extra TIE fighters, because that only happens under the Executrix. So there could have been a different, like he could have put the bomber or the shuttle or something instead of Scythe. But Scythe is still annoying, so I still take it out first. And now I'm just going to take out the Interceptor. And from here we've won. I still have better ships. And we pretty good. Yep. So here, looking at the banner total, he's got 46 banners on me. And that's why it doesn't matter if you needed 2 attempts up against Lord Vader. Had to beat Lord Vader in 1, that's only 30 extra banners at best. I probably would have dropped some banners too. Any scenario, I'm at best 2060. Probably more like 2059, 2058, something like that. And in that situation, like he still was up so many banners that this is why when I saw that banner total, I was just like, we're going to try and learn some things. We're not going to try and match that, because that's really good, really strong performance from Beam Me Up. But even though we lost this one, I think it was a great match, because we learned some really valuable things, really strong testing that shows that a lot of these new marquee characters have been very interesting and valuable, and I think are going to be some pretty strong additions to the game, and getting pretty pumped for what Mandalore Bo could be doing if we're already seeing some interesting mechanics with Paz and Grogu. But we'll look into that stuff. Hopefully CG has a few more surprises for us as we get into the holiday week. But thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes, and we're out of focus. We're going to go with it.